Hey everyone, it's Donelle McAdams. I'm back from after being gone last week. I missed everyone. It's kind of funny because you kind of get used to seeing everybody's comments, and then with a week without having been with you, I've missed you. So we're going to have fun today. Honestly, an hour ago I had no clue what we were going to do. I told my daughter, I said, get me a template that I haven't used and we're going to play. And so that's what we've been doing for about 40 minutes, and I got all ready to go live at 5, ready to push the button, and realized I hadn't selected a thread, so I had to get a thread out for you. So what we're going to be using today, I'm going to use a 12-inch crosshair grid. I have got simply a fat quarter here of fabric, and I've just placed it in the middle. We're also going to be using the outer rim tool, the circle outer rim tool. I'm going to be using my Circles on Quilts Wreath 11. This is the template that I have not used until about an hour ago. And obviously I need a Fix-On marker. Now for those of you that don't know, I'm not going to have any problems with ghosting because I have treated this fabric with 3 layers of Starch Savvy. Starch Savvy is similar to Best Press. And so I had some of it, so it's the one that I used, and I really kind of like it because I don't have to put it in any different bottle. It does a good job of spraying it. So I've had this sprayed. So what I'm going to do is I'm using my Fix-On marker. It's not the pen, it's not the one with the metal tip, and I'm going to mark these 8 lines. And then I'm going to be rotating it and marking an additional 8 lines. So if you've never done that before, you can see that I've marked those, and then I'm going to rotate this and line up the lines that are etched on top of that. I may have to make these darker for you guys to see them. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. This one I'll go twice. Actually, I guess I did 3 times. I usually use the fine line. So if you haven't purchased Fix-On markers and you're buying them, get the fine line. But if I used fine line, you wouldn't be able to see anything. I don't normally have to go multiple times, but again, so it shows up on the screen, I'm going to do it several times so you can see it. So if you're new with us, I just did a live at 3 hours ago, and I invited people to come to this. And so if you're new, give us a thumbs up or a like. I'm going to have to mark a couple more of those, Megan. Give us a thumbs up or a like because we're glad to have new people joining us. And like I said, we just did a live with a store, Quality Sew and Vac, and they're in Washington State. And so maybe some of you were on that with us. And
we just got a bunch of thumbs up.
Well,
that's
good.
Exciting.
I'm glad you guys came back. All right, so this is marking 16 times. The rest of you tell us where you're from. And now you can see that I've got my center right here. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to use my thumbtack. And this is what the Circles on Quilts Wreath 11 looks like. And this is one that we're going to be rotating on a thumbtack. Now I can tell you when I get templates, I don't know much about any of them. I don't know what they're going to do until I start playing around with them. And this is one that is going to have a lot of potential. You can see I've got a Christmas fabric here on the back of this one. I'm hoping to turn this into a Christmas wall hanging. Whoa, I missed that.
Because it's never too early for Christmas, right?
No, it's almost Christmas in July. So anyway, we can always get started. So what I'm going to do is I am going to show you why I put my arrow here. When I do this design, I'm going to start and I'm going to go around and I am going to be rotating this, and I have to stop right here. Now if I pull this up, you can see it on this side. That is right in the same spot on this side. So in order to be able to rotate this, if you've worked with the Spinifex, or excuse me, the Spinning Wheels 36, that comes in the sampler set, you know that we sew from A to B. Now, I imagine I could do the same thing here, but I wouldn't have any closure in the center. And the design I'm doing, I want to have closure in the center. So I've got my stable tape. You can see I kind of put some skinny ones down here. I've got my ruler sticker, and truly that's exactly what they are. They look like this, different colors of stickers that come in a package, and you can reposition them and use them over and over. When I'm done with this, if I wanted to take this off, I just stick it to my table, and then the next time I needed one, I'd have it. And then I have RNK tape that's holding my gate in. So I'm going to actually start at this point. So we're going to come over here to the machine. And my thread, because of what I'm doing with this, matches really close to the fabric. So I hope you'll be able to see what's going on here. I'm going to put my needle down, bring my needle up, bring my foot up, and floss underneath there. Now that thread didn't come up, so I need to get my tweezers and pull it up. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and put my foot down. Now I would normally have matched that thread so that the bobbin thread and the top thread matched, but I didn't want to take the time to wind a bobbin. We were already 5 minutes late getting started. I think we'll be fine with this. And I'm going to start stitching. And I'm going to come back down to the bottom here. And this is why you'll see we're right back to where we began. And I don't need that thread to be that long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. And I'm going to rotate to my next line. Now, you remember I said I did 16 lines. When I come around here, I think you can see right there, this is etched on my template, so that's lining up with my previous stitching. So it's like 3 ways to measure. You can measure there, you can measure the line in the back, or you can just measure where I'm at right here. And I'm going to stitch around and come back and stop right there. Actually, I didn't get clear over, so I need to come back and come back over here. Because I have to retrace just a little bit of this. I think you'll be able to see it easier on this now. And I come right back to that spot. Line it up with this line.
We have a great question from Carol. What distinguishes the difference between spin effects and circles on quilts templates?
You know, that's a great question, and I'm not really sure how to answer that. So I will try. I don't know if Stacy's on with, but if she is on there, she might be able to answer that. But if not, I will find out next week and let you know. Because I know that, believe it or not, when Leonie named the templates, Spin Effects was a flower. It is a flower in Australia. And that's why she named that, and I'm not certain that they all spin like we think they would. Circles on Quilts is doing what we're doing, where we're moving around in a circle, sometimes on the thumbtack, not always. And as those of you that were with me for the class with quality, you notice that I showed you how many different things, well, I didn't show you all, but I tried to show you a lot of different things that we do with the various templates. And so I can tell you that this one right here is one that has a lot of options, because we could actually not use any kind of a thumbtack. We could have this as our center point, so it would be rounded all around the outside. So there's always a ton of things that you can do with it.
What about the spin effects versus the spinning wheel? Is there a difference there?
Again, I'd have to ask. Good questions, you guys. So I hope this is at least enough that you can see it. I have a reason, and you'll see why later, why I wanted this to match pretty close, because we're going to use this as a Temply quilting, and I don't much care to see all of my thread because it does emphasize the fabric if you don't see the thread as much. But you have to remember on this one, I'm moving to the right, or I'm moving clockwise, so it's this side that's going to get that little ruler marker so you know where to start and stop. And I think you can see why I like to have a marker, because when I'm back there, I can't see where that's at. Oh, we're all the way around. I almost started to go again. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm not cutting. I'm raising this up, and I'm pulling up the thread, and I'm going to secure it on the back. So I'm going to show you, because some of you guys are new with us. I need to get this so it's not tangled there. But all of this thread is going to go to the back. So let me go ahead and get my side threading needle. It's my cinch side threading needle. And I'm going to take this thread here. This is where we started. And I'm going to take it right back down to the back. So Megan's showing you those while I'm finding my needle that I just dropped. There it is. And it looks like I failed to get one of them to the back, so bear with me. I'm going to get that one to the back. So I'm going to take this right back down in that hole too. And what I just did might happen to you. So I want you to, first of all, can you see my stitching there? If not, you can certainly see the effects. I'm going to flip this over and show you what I have. One thread that's over here by itself. Okay, so I've got, well, actually I've got two that way. So if this happens to you, I should have gone back like I was doing each time, and I didn't. So I'm just going to go underneath and get them over to where I want them to be. Now you want to make sure that you're just under fabric. You're not, you're not out on the front of your fabric. This is why I usually just use black when I demonstrate, because then that way, well, I did it twice. Now, third time's a charm, okay?
Now, Debbie wants to know, why are you taking the threads to the back?
Because I want to hide them and bury them. Good question.
You could put them in the front if you wanted to.
Yeah, but it's easier to bury them on the back, for me anyway. Now, third time's a charm. Did it come? One did, one didn't. Boy, oh boy, you guys are getting to see it all today.
We've got another question. Laura wants to know, are the side needles better than the top loading needles?
Yes, because the top loading needles that I've had sometimes shear my thread, whereas these don't. So it's, it's just totally up to you. But now I got all four of my threads there. I'm just going to take two and two in each hand, and I'm going to tie it in a knot. The reason I've left my thumbtack in is because the next thing I'm going to be doing is using my outer rim tool, and I need it for that too. So because I know I've got some short threads right there by my knot, I'm just going to go underneath that fabric and get that in there and then put my threads in. And I may have to get this a little bit out of your view to get it done, because I got to have enough room to work here.
Now, Judy asked the opposite question. Why take them to the front in the first place? So why do you need your threads at the front when you start?
Because you don't want a rat's nest under... Oh, that's not what you're supposed to say. Because you don't want a rat's nest in your bobbin area. So it just makes sure that you got everything together. So now that I've got all of those in there, we'll pull them through. And now that knot was right there. You can't see it. It's buried. And I'm going to just trim that thread right close to the fabric. And so now it's popped under. You kind of even heard that pop in there because I've buried that knot. Now I'm going to flip this back, and what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to show you how to use this outer rim tool. Now, I've shown this before. It makes perfect sense to me now because I've been using it quite a lot. But if I wanted to sit this on here and I wanted to use a fine line marker and I wanted to make a certain size circle around here, I could put this in here and make that circle go all the way around. So that means I am using the numbers on this side. Now I'm going to set this is my fine line, I'm going to set it in there, and you can see how right while I'm working with this, I'm hitting my needle bar. That's why I'm having to stop each time. But I want a circle that's a 6-inch circle for the design I'm going to use. So I'm just marking that all the way around, right off, I hope you're able to see this, right off of that same pen. I also know that I need a 10-inch circle. So I'm going to come up to the 10 on this side, which is right there. And I'm going to put that in there. And I'm going to mark another line or another circle. Now the last time I did this, I was using the opposite end of that because I did not need the circles. But for this one, I'm just using this with my fine line marker, and the only reason I'm going back and forth is because of the fact that I want you to be able to see it. So you can see I've got a 6 and I've got a 10-inch line. Now what I need to do is I need to make my marks that are halfway between. I'm still going to use that pen so I can, or that thumbtack, so I can just line this up with my ruler and make a line here and a line there. I go to the next one, I make a line here and a line there.
And a lot of them are looking for this ruler. So what is you have it named as?
This is called the 12.5-inch centering ruler. It's available on my page, which is, my website is SewBizMarion.com, or you can get to it by going to my Facebook page, which is All Things Quilting and Sewing with Donelle McAdams. It's not available through distributors, and so for that reason you can get it from me. But you can use any ruler. I'm just using this as a straight edge at this point, but obviously I have a lot of other uses for it because it is a centering tool. So all I'm doing, this just makes it faster to leave that thumbtack in there as my center point to rotate around. And these are just kind of little tricks of the trade, so to speak, because otherwise it can be really frustrating. So like you don't have a handout for this particular one. I may end up putting this as a class in the university, which if you're not familiar, the university has a whole lot of information and classes that you can take. And while I'm mentioning the university, don't forget about our $250 shopping cart giveaway. You'll find all the information right on the Sew Steady page, but that's like you just go in and load up your shopping cart and maybe you'll be the winner of what you've put in there. So it's with your local store, but you're going to work for it through Sew Steady's website. So go in there and see what's going on. That's going to be a lot of fun to put those things in there and be able to get them if you were the one that won that. So that's going to be a great giveaway. Now, I have these marks and I have these marks out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be connecting this to this to this. I really didn't need you to make that, I guess. So this to this, and back and forth. So in other words, I'm echoing. So what I'm going to get is I'm just going to get my small ruler, I guess I just put my templates away. Hang on here. I'm getting my template, just my straight edge here. I'm going to start down into one of these spots. So I'm going to go, I like to start inside because then when I join it, if there's any little thing that's not exactly perfect, it's not as noticeable. So I'm putting that right down in that spot. And then I need to come to this spot. Well, when I come to that spot, I need to be 1/4 of an inch away with my template. So that's where I'm using my spacing gauge. And I'm going to come out to that spot. I'm going to rotate this and I'm going to turn it completely around because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. And so we'll work this way because it doesn't matter. So I'm going to take this, put it up against, and stitch right down to that spot there. I'm going to go out to this spot. I guess I'm going to end up back behind you no matter what. So we're echoing. And we could echo a little, we can echo a lot. I'm going to go around here one time. And I know my spacing gauge is a different color. That's so you can see it as I use it. Maybe if I go this way. So you can see how drawing those circles just as simple and quick as I could, I now have my spots marked where I can then stitch to and from. Now remember, when you set up your machine for your quilting, you want to work with getting a good tension so your stitches look good. So if you have any issues with tension, we try to do all of the adjusting on the top of the machine. In other words, not going down into that bobbin case. So if you had thread pulling up from the bobbin area, that means the top's got too much pull, and you are going to loosen the top tension. If you have thread pulling up from the bobbin area, it could be that you don't have your thread secured in your bobbin correctly. So you would want to check that also before you start moving things around. But if you have thread pulling to the back, that means your bobbin's got too much pull, so you're going to tighten your top thread. So I can tell you with pretty much a surety, you can get everything doing exactly what you want it to do right from the top. If your machine hasn't been cleaned lately, we call that a D&C, a dusting and a cleaning. You probably want to get that done. Now I know a lot of you have been sewing masks and you've just been really, really busy. You can just open up your bobbin area without having to have a whole lot of extra tools, and if nothing more than a Q-tip or a paintbrush that hasn't been used, you can get a lot of the lint out with that. Because I will tell you, template quilting or any kind of free motion work can be kind of fussy if you got a dirty machine. Now, some of you probably have heard me say many times, but it never hurts to say it again. I set my machine to a medium speed, and then I simply turn my foot pedal on the floor around to the back, and with it being on medium, I just press it to the floor. So you can probably tell by the sound that my speed's not changing. It's not fluctuating, going up or down or anything like that. Do we have any questions or comments?
Yes, Linda, and I know Linda came from our previous video, so we're glad she's back to this one. Wants to know what the ruler was called that draws your circles.
That's called the Circle Works Outer Rim Tool. If you just write down Outer Rim Tool, that will be, and I'm almost back to the beginning, so hang on just a second here.
I'm going to put it up here so they can see it. Hopefully, here we go.
Okay, let me have it here, Megan. So what I did was I had to master this. And so the easiest way was this blue dot, or this blue marker, means I'm using it with a marker to draw a circle. And so I'm using the numbers on this side. So whatever number I put it on, and you can see I've kind of got the 10 brightened up there a little bit, that's how big my circle is going to be from side to side. In other words, my diameter. And Megan got my sample that I was, well, yeah, you can see that, but I can also show you here. This is what I was playing on before you guys came to the party, and this was how I was figuring out what I wanted to do. And so I needed a 10-inch circle, so the pen is always already there, and then I just put my pencil in here and drew that around. Now the other end is when I'm using these numbers, and that's why I put the green arrow here, and that means if I wanted a 7-inch circle but I wasn't actually drawing it, I was just making marks, I'm just making marks at the end of my ruler here. So this would be in the center, and this would make the marks on the end. So basically, you're going to put an arrow on the left side when you're looking at it correctly, and those numbers that are on the same side are what you're using. Because like I said, when I first got mine, I was like, I have no clue how to use this. So I'm back to the beginning here. I raised my hand wheel. I'm pulling my threads. And yes, obviously I could pull these to the front and tie the knot. I like to take them to the back, so that's what I'm going to do with this one. And just as a little hint, you know, on the back of things that you get in the mail, like calendars from the realtors or the insurance agents or whatever, they have these little magnet things. And so I just rip those off when I'm done with them, or maybe even when I just get them if I don't need a calendar. And I lay those to the side of my machine, and they just hold what I need for magnets. And so I have a couple of these laying over beside my machine, and it holds those needles in place. So it's one of those things, well, you're probably thinking, she's a crazy recycle lady, kind of. I actually have the best little trash bins at all of my sewing machines, and they're nothing more than a used square Kleenex box, but that's a great little trash bin for your sewing machines. So when I'm finished with pulling those to the back, again, I'm just going to take these and I'm going to put them in twos. And if I've got two different kinds of thread, I usually put them in one in each one. And so I know you probably can't see all of this right here against this fabric, but it's, trust me, I want to use this project, so I'm going to make sure I've got it tied so it's not going to come out.
And we did have a question for people who've been watching you throughout COVID and everything. This is a different method than what you started out with, correct?
It is, because and that's a great question. I'm glad you guys mentioned that. Because when I first did it, I was actually making too big of a knot. And this one is much smaller because you're tying them in a different way. Thanks for noticing that. Because this is a better way to do it. Anytime I find something better, I want to share it with you. And right now I'm going to have to move this so I can get where I can see it. I don't know if you can still see what I'm doing, but
so even the teachers keep learning.
Oh yeah, experience is the best teacher. My mom says that when I pass away, I'll probably be running behind a hearse saying, hey, wait a minute, I got one more thing I want to do, or I want to teach, or I want to learn. And that's probably true, because I do love to learn. I feel like we're all learners all the time. So I know you can't see this design that well, and that doesn't matter in this situation, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to turn this into Temply quilting. So Megan, if you want to get me one over there, I'll show them what Temply quilting is, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to turn this into that. So I've stitched this all in the middle. I can always add more. This is Temply quilting, and this is where we actually cut things out. And so I've got a lot of opportunity here for cutout, and this is where on my practice pieces I would probably do some coloring. Now I know, and I'm just going to go ahead and mark it, I'm going to be cutting out this section and this section and this section, and I'm going to cut out all of this echo section. So I'm going to get started and show you how that works.
Okay, let me zoom in a little bit because our colors are all kind of blending together.
You do whatever you need to do. I'm hunting my scissors. Do you want to put it down lower for doing this?
I think I'm good. I'm just going to put it to the side here a little bit.
So what you want to get is a good, sharp seam ripper. Now you're not going to pick those up for $1.99. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to get under this first layer of fabric. Now before I go there, I should show you that the first layer of fabric has heat and bond light on the back of it. So the heat and bond light has not been fused down. It won't be till I'm finished. This is my peeker fabric that's going to peek through wherever I cut. Then behind that is just my batting layer and my backing layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this little one right here, and I'm going to lift up. And sometimes it takes a couple times, and I'm going to kind of feel around. And if I don't feel like it's getting caught in batting, then I know it's okay. So I can go ahead and I can cut that layer. So all I'm going to do is get a couple of these started. See me kind of just feel around there. And trust me, if you make a mistake and cut the layer underneath there, just go ahead and proceed. And when you get done, you can go back and you can put a little bit of fray check on it and it'll be okay. So that's going to get cut, and this is going to get cut. So I want to get underneath here. And I will tell you that this is not something that you have to have a ton of experience with regular template quilting to do this. It's not that difficult. It's just an extra layer, and you're going to adjust your foot accordingly. Now, in my situation, I didn't have to adjust the foot at all. And this is the secret right here. Right here is the secret to this. I use these tweezer snips. You can get them from Havel or you can get them from Famore. There's probably some others, but they are tweezers, so you're just using it like this. They have a little bit of a curved point and they're super sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right in underneath here and I'm just tweezing so I don't have my fingers in the big old holes of anything. And I'm coming up to this point. I'm going to have to rotate this around so that I can get back here. And I'm just going to cut this. And then on this one I can come this way. And in that little tiny section you see what I've got. It's just starting to peek out. And so this is kind of a part of a project that I would actually go to my kitchen table or one of the tables here in my sewing studio, and so I could turn this freely and not, you know, hit my needle bar and all of that. So I'm just going to take this and go that way. I can always come back and go like this, and this is the reason that I like to use a thread that matches, because now your thread is not part of your design. It's just your barrier where you're cutting. So I want to make sure I didn't cut too many layers. I think we're okay. And we're going to come into there. I turn this around. And I will tell you, you can have some of the ugliest fabric underneath that you can imagine. And it will be an awesome cutout. I had a class once where we took pillow panels and we didn't want to use it that way. So the pillow panel went underneath there. And that's what we cut out, and I mean, it didn't look anything like what it started to be when it was just a panel. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to show you how we do this, because this is going to be continuous all the way around. So when you start cutting here, you could be cutting for a long time. I'm going to come back and do this side. And with these scissors being these tweezers like this, you can hardly fail. I mean, it's not like, you can see I'm just tweezing. It's not like I'm going to have any issues with that cutting. Any questions?
I don't think any. They're having some issues looking for the outer rim tool, but I just put a link up to ours if they
Yeah,
can't
we
find
can
it.
get it to you. I would encourage you to go to your local quilt store first, but if they don't have the products or don't carry it, just, we'll get you fixed up. I was a quilt store owner for 35 years. I still have my online store, but I know the importance of supporting that local quilt store.
They're loving those scissors. Can you tell them the name again?
These are what are called 4 1/2 to 4 3/4. I'm not sure which. Embroidery snips. So just remember this, okay? An hour ago, I had no idea what I was doing. I just told my daughter, hand me a template and give me a challenge. And go to McDonald's and get me an iced tea. And so that's what she did. She handed me a template and said, do some Temply quilting with it. And I said, okay, well, I think I need to add the outer rim tool. So that's why I added that, because that makes it so much faster. Yeah. So I think Megan's going to find a picture of it so she can put it from her iPad underneath here so that you can see what they look like. But you can see how easy this is to cut this out just by having those little tweezers rather than having to deal with scissors that are bulky. I didn't like doing this until I got these little scissors. I'm going to go ahead and cut this part here and cut it out so you can see what's developing around there. But I want you to see I can also go in and cut out this center, and I've already got a little hole there. Now this is not going to be an exact circle. It's going to take me a little bit, but this has a little bit of rounding to it in each one of these. So you can see that it's kind of a little bit of a scallop on each of those. Once you get started with this, the sky's the limit. And like I said, you don't have to have a ton of experience with Temply quilting, but I will tell you that I happen to be one of those that likes my thread to be there for a purpose. I'm sure there's a time when it can make a statement, but I think it kind of blends in better so that you're just seeing what the design is that's created. And when I cut this out and then do a couple of more on this inside spike, you're going to see how it starts to really pull together. And then after you're all finished, you're going to press it, and that will press that heat and bond down to secure those edges.
Carol wants to know, those scissors that you were using, do they stay sharp for a fair amount of time?
Yes.
You're using a lot of detail.
Yes, and the reason I say that is because that's all I use them for. Don't start using them for cutting threads and things like that. I have another pair that are just like them, only they have like a spatula on the end. They're called lace and applique scissors, and those are the ones that I use to cut my threads with. So that way I'm not hurting or not. And I know that there's other ways out there to do this, but I will just tell you that, like I said, I had tried all different things, and these scissors were the best ones yet. I have a little go-to pair of scissors. I call it my little black dress because they're black scissors, and I thought they were the greatest thing since sliced bread until I had these. and yet those were not good for this at all, because there is something to be said. You see how I'm turning on the side to get right to that point? And then I can just come back and cut this like so. So you can see what this is going to look like when I get this all going this way. So this part is not going to be cut out, and it's going to be looking like a medallion there in the center. So that's pretty much all I had to show you. We could sit here all day and watch Donelle cut, or you can go start practicing. But this is, remember, this was a spin effect. It's not a spin effects. It's Circles on Quilts Wreath number 11. And I believe, I don't know where I put that. I believe it's the 5.5 inch, because they come in a whole set, or you can just buy one by itself. And that was the 5.5 inch. And remember, oh no, excuse me. This is the 7.5. The 7.5. Remember, you could use it this way too. So you can use it a lot of different ways. And the outer rim tool, I did a 6-inch circle and a 10-inch circle. I could go out and do another one. Could do like a 7-inch circle that would be the inside, and then I could do another circle out here, so I could have multiple rows of this going on. I could have one that I leave like it's supposed to be, or I shouldn't say like it's supposed to be, but leave this fabric, and then I could do another one. So you could have a lot of those going on the same one, because all I did was draw 2 circles so I could connect lines to get that together. So if there's not any other questions, I'm just going to start cutting here and say I'll see you next Saturday. If you've got any requests or anything, don't hesitate to send them to me, because I don't ever know for sure what I'm doing from week to week. So
if there's a template out there they want to see you use, you're saying...
Give me a shout. Let me know. Don't do it on Saturday morning. Give me a little heads up before that. But sure, I'd be happy to do that. I've got a whole bunch of templates that I've never even tried. So maybe something that you have, I have in my library, and I could show you. So appreciate you joining me today. Hope you've learned a little bit along the way. And just remember that you can jump in there and just start playing with these, and you don't have to even necessarily know where you're headed, or you can plan it all out. Some people want everything planned all out ahead of time, and a good way to do that would be to get your stitching line disc and do some drawing. So thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next Saturday. Bye now.